What up? Just documenting my writing for today. So today I was talking about the aspect of attention and the way in which we go through kind of revolutions in which what we pay attention to as a species. So for the 1600s we had newspapers, and newspapers were very revolutionary in terms of just what we could get information about society. Prior to that, it was just kind of word of mouth, us talking to each other and interacting in the different communities that we do. And 300 years later, the radio came out in the early 1900s. This was revolutionary in the sense that we literally structured our homes around this box, which we put in a corner, and we placed our couches around it, and we would sit in front of this device with our family and listen to it. Again, it brought us news, it brought us soap operas, it brought about a whole new level of business and marketing and innovation in the industry, and in terms of creative talent, and in terms of technology. It was a huge expansion in terms of what business was about and what we were about as a species. That obviously turned into the TV about 60 years later in the 1960s, when the TV started to get released more mainstream. People, moved their radios, they put their TV in, same kind of thing. Again, more expansive in terms of business and economics. So we had more talent come in terms of video talent, and more just behind the technology that's behind TVs and screens and video. And the business started to explode, and more people moved towards TV and away from radio. Less people are now paying attention to newspapers, more people are now paying attention to TV. That then transitioned into the internet, and that came out, computers first. Rather, computers came out late 70s, depending on mainstream wise, started to get adopted around early 90s, and more people started to have computers in their home. More people stopped paying attention to their TV, started paying attention to their computer. Napster and all this stuff, the video sharing, music sharing stuff, started to transition into the computers. What came next was social media in the form of MySpace and the early adopters there. That obviously transitioned into Facebook. That then transitioned into our cell phone technology and the mobile technology platforms, which are based around our social media. We're now seeing a virtual reality in terms of Snapchat and Instagram stories and the Facebook stories and all the different little sparkles and wide-eye things that we can do. Pokemon Go, also an illustration of VR. So VR is next, obviously the next transition in terms of what we pay attention to, and just the ways in which we interact with the artificial intelligences which are out there, which are Google and Facebook, in terms of their ability to give us a certain feed of what we want, or what the algorithms say we want. And this is a very fascinating thing, because in 100 years we went from paying attention to a box in the corner of the room to an individual box in our hands where we can personalize and customize. And it's been a increasing exponentially pace of how fast that we're actually transitioning through attention revolutions and the forms in which they're coming. And this is an illustration in terms of human evolution, I believe, of simply our current state of consciousness. Cell phones just being an extension of ourselves, and memory and phone numbers and all the new things in which we can store on them. So technology just being an illustration of the exponential process of human evolution that's happening. This is obviously easy enough to understand. We were, a little bacteria for a very long period of time, and we transitioned, and we, moved through the evolutionary process at an ever increasing pace. And I think that this is happening as well current day. We're just not quite necessarily aware to it, although I do think it's prevalent in terms of our social circles relative to people wanting a slower life, a quieter life. They want to move back to the time where evolution wasn't so rapid, and it's just going to continue to increase at its pace when we start to see more technology, like growing food and regrowing cells and regrowing organs, and automated surgery where an AI can literally just print a kidney and put it in our bodies if we go into kidney failure, probably faster than we can drive to a hospital. It is quite an astonishing thing in terms of exponential growth of technology. And the real question that I find quite fascinating relative to all this stuff is, what is going to be the next attention revolution, and is it going to happen fast? I believe it is, and I believe that the next attention revolution is a process of us starting to pay attention to ourselves. So us coming to the collective realization that I am not Justin. I am just observing Justin. And we're going to collectively come to this realization. And the society that is created off of that baseline level of consciousness, I think, will be a very beautiful world and a very hyper-connected world through the illustration of how technology has already been connecting us recently in the last decade, and how it will continue to connect us in terms of in the future. And just fascinating in terms of the aspects of what that society could look like, what emerging technologies like blockchain and cryptocurrencies will play, what the aspects of artificial intelligence, where social media will sit in that world if we come to the collective realization that we're not actually our social media profile. That's not actually the true I. It's just a ideological construction that we have created based off of ourselves. And the fascinating thing with this attention revolution is it really shapes economics. It really shapes where the money is flowing in our society. And there's so many things and so many pressures on different industries right now. I'm quite fascinated to look at this through a lens of what's going to happen economically. Where is the business opportunity going to be when we are at a collective level of realization that I am not Justin. We are not our names. We were given our names and we are something much more. And that infinite exploration of our true selves, which I see as the higher self, and the exploration of simply just doing what's in the hearts and the representation of what I really want to be doing in terms of all these different people running businesses, the explosive growth of things like Headspace and the mindfulness applications and the mindfulness works and the esoteric spiritual interests and psychology interests that are permeating our society right now. And it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see how business shapes themselves and positions themselves and creates value for the human aspects of ourself, and how our economy will be shaped around that. And truly, I don't think that we will see it in a capitalist model. I think that we will quickly transition away from it, because the ruling ideology of I have the ownership over Justin is an aspect that makes us sick, and an aspect that impacts our health in a negative way, just based off of a functional neurological perspective of the way in which we are constructing our reality, and that causes a deterioration based off of the concepts in which I own things. That's mine. That's yours. And I don't think we can get away from that, even using the English language and the concepts of possession. And as we start to realize this on more and more of a collective consciousness, what is that world going to look like? It's a very exciting time, and I'm very excited to see that world. I'll see you tomorrow.